Hi there, Presley here. Let's talk about Heart of Darkness. Heart of Darkness is a cult classic PS1 game. It is a cinematic platformer. The story follows a troublesome young boy named Andy. Andy gets into a bit of trouble at school and is locked in the cupboard by his teacher, who looks like Doc Brown from Back to the Future. This is unfortunate for Andy because he is afraid of the dark. After that traumatic day at school, he goes to the park with his dog Whiskey to wind down. They witness a strange solar eclipse, and it is at that point that the adventure begins, when Andy's dog Whiskey is taken to a different realm by shadow creatures. The adventure then follows Andy as he gets in his homemade spaceship and flies to this different realm in search of his dog. The story plays out with Andy on this other world looking for his dog. The game had these beautiful FMV cutscenes and told the story in such a beautiful way that it felt like you were playing a Pixar movie. The gameplay was fairly simple. It was a 2D platformer predominantly, with some minor combat sections. You spend most of the game traversing the world, getting from A to B, solving puzzles and fighting bad guys. Critically, the game was generally well received. However, I couldn't find any information online on how well the game sold. However, this game has a loyal cult following of fans. Unfortunately though, the gameplay has not aged well. Even though the pre-rendered backgrounds were beautiful for its time, the graphics just look very pixelated in retrospect. The animations are still very solid. Andy moves very realistically. But if you pick up the game for the first time to play it these days, you're probably going to have a bad time. This gaming era is definitely the era of the old remakes. See Crash, see Spyro, see Medieval, see Final Fantasy VII Remake, see Resident Evil 2 and 3 Remake. See my videos on the potential Resident Evil 4 and Metal Gear Solid Remake. There is proof, ladies and gentlemen. So with all these remakes, and surely more coming in the future, let's look at how we can make the most out of a Heart of Darkness remake. First of all, as I mentioned before, the original game is a 2D game. Now, if we were to remake this today, it probably wouldn't play very well. For this reason, if this game was to be remade, it would have to be a 3D remake. Of course, if the game was remade in 3D, there would be huge conflicts with the gameplay of the original and the remake. For example, in difficult sections, there would be enemies coming from you from your left and from your right. Part of the puzzle would be trying not to get flanked. Adding a third dimension would make this considerably easier or considerably harder depending on which way you look at it. For example, 3D camera angles don't really give you a great deal of vision from behind. It would be pretty unfair to be hit by a fireball from behind when you didn't even see where it came from. Now in other games, being attacked from behind isn't the worst problem, but with Heart of Darkness, everything was a one-hit kill. With this, we might have to reduce the difficulty of the game or make the enemies a little less relentless. One way this issue can be settled is by adding a life bar to the game. However, on consideration, what made the first game so brilliant was that everything was fatal. You pretty much had to play the game perfectly to survive, and it was this feeling that you can lose your life at any time which made the game so exciting. So one thing I thought they could add to the game is a dodge button. This will allow you to easily dodge in 3 dimensions, and you won't just need to either duck or jump over the fireballs. Let's continue looking at ways we could improve the combat system. At the beginning of the game, Andy takes his homemade laser rifle on his mission to find his dog. However, after losing this very early on in the game, this is only your secondary weapon. Later in the game, Andy interacts with some kind of strange energy source which allows him to fire Hadouken-like energy balls from his hand. This is your primary weapon in the game. If the game was to be remade as a third-person action-adventure, the best way to handle the combat would be over-the-shoulder view aim and fire. This would work well with both the laser rifle and the energy balls. Now, if you research this game, you won't need to get very far to see someone mention the brutal death scenes. These get a lot of criticism considering the game is aimed at children. However, I think these should be kept in the game because, well, they're funny and they're so well animated that you can't be mad at them. Another area in which a remake could improve on this game is the duration of the game. Like most PS1 games, this game is rather short and can be completed in 1 or 2 hours if you know what you're doing. You'll spend the bulk of your playthrough just doing a lot of trial and error because this game is hard. However, because there is only about 1 or 2 hours worth of content in the game, we could definitely expand on the story and characters. The game has many beautiful and surreal environments. It would be amazing to explore these in more detail. Perhaps the game could even go with more modern trends and have 1 or 2 open world environments in the game. Playing Heart of Darkness was honestly one of the highlights of my childhood. I have very fond memories of this game and I always will have. I'm sure this game's cult following of loyal fans would love to see this game remade in beautiful HD. And there you have it. Let me know in the comments which PS1 classics you would like to see remade. The top comment from last video goes to Heat King Media. You can see his comment on screen right now. Very informative, very insightful. Once again, if you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button and subscribe to Prez1990 for more gaming videos. All that's left for me to say is take care and I'll see you in the next video.